Right now, somewhere in your body, a cell has just copied its DNA wrong. It happens during ordinary cell division, no virus, no exposure, no bad luck. That cell may carry one of the first changes that can eventually lead to cancer. This is not unusual. Your body produces mutations like this thousands of times today, and will do it again tomorrow. By any reasonable math, you might expect cancer to be far more common than it is. Somewhere in that gap between the math and the reality sits one of the oldest unresolved questions in biology. I went looking for when this story actually begins, expecting a recent answer. Industrial age, maybe? Processed food, pollution, and something tied to how we live now. What I found instead pushed the story back further than I expected, and it didn't stop pushing. In 2016, paleopathologist Edward Oates and colleagues in the South African Journal of Science re-examined a small toe bone pulled decades earlier from Swartkrans Cave in South Africa. Using micro-CT scanning, they identified unmistakable signs of osteosarcoma, an aggressive bone cancer, in a human ancestor who lived roughly 1.7 million years ago. Somewhere on the savannah, an early hominin limped on a foot that was quietly killing them from the inside, 100,000 generations before anyone wrote a word about disease, before anyone had a word for cancer at all. Osteosarcoma like this doesn't move fast. Whoever this was had likely been living with it, walking on it, for a long stretch of their life. We don't know whether they had anyone to lean on, or whether the group slowed down around them. We don't know if they were young or old. What we know is that the tumor had been there long enough to leave a mark that survived 1,000,000 years of dirt. We like to imagine cancer as the price of modern life. The fossil record disagrees, and it keeps disagreeing the further back you push. It's worth noting that this kind of evidence is rare for a simple reason. Soft tissue rots away before fossilization occurs. Bone cancer only survives in the record because bone survives. Whatever the true ancient numbers were, what we've found is almost certainly the smallest visible edge of a much larger pattern. For years, a particular fossil bone looked like what paleontologists expected it to be, a badly damaged dinosaur leg, twisted by some old injury. Nothing about it seemed extraordinary. Then, in 2020, paleontologist David Evans from the Royal Ontario Museum and McMaster University led a team that examined it using CT scans. The images revealed something unexpected. The pattern wasn't consistent with trauma at all. Modern oncologists recognized it immediately. Advanced osteosarcoma. The bone belonged to a Centrosaurus, a horned dinosaur that lived roughly 76 million years ago in what is now Alberta, Canada. This animal lived tens of millions of years before cigarettes, exhaust fumes, or a single piece of plastic existed. None of that mattered. The mutation was already wired into the basic architecture of being alive. Push back further still. In 2019, paleontologist Yara Haridi from the Museum for Naturkunde Berlin examined the fossilized leg bone of Papochelis rosinae, a small shell-less ancestor of modern turtles that lived roughly 240 million years ago, before the first true dinosaurs existed. The diagnosis: periosteal osteosarcoma, the oldest confirmed case of bone cancer in any reptile, bird, or mammal. 240 million years before your species existed, before mammals existed in any form you would recognize, the body's own copying machinery already had this flaw built in. This is where the question flipped for me. If the failure is this old and this built in, the real question isn't why cancer happens anymore. It's why it doesn't happen far more than it already should. Here is the number that makes this strange. Every day, your body produces and eliminates tens of billions of cells. Each time one of them divides, there's a small chance that something in the copying goes wrong. Across a lifetime, that adds up to a near constant stream of these small errors, the same kind of change that can, in rare cases, eventually grow into cancer. That's not some rare glitch. That's just a normal Tuesday happening quietly inside you. Now, some of you are thinking, if that's true, shouldn't we all be developing tumors constantly? Most of us picture cancer as a switch. Either it's there or it isn't. The actual process looks nothing like that. Researchers break it into 3 loose stages. Most damaged cells never even make it to being a problem. They're repaired on the spot, or destroyed through a kind of built-in cell suicide, or simply switched off permanently into a dormant state called senescence. That's most of what happens every day, and you never hear about it. A smaller number survive in a kind of holding pattern, neither growing into anything dangerous nor fully disappearing, sometimes for years. And a very small number eventually slip past every check the body has, which is the point where something might get diagnosed. The overwhelming majority never make it that far, but sometimes a cell doesn't just slip past the checks, it stops listening to them entirely. In 1951, a young mother named Henrietta Lacks walked into Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore with a cervical tumor. Doctors couldn't explain and wouldn't be able to stop. During her treatment, a sample of her tumor cells was taken, and something about those cells refused to follow the usual rules. Normal human cells divide a limited number of times and then die. Hers never got that memo. The very thing that killed her is the reason her cells are still alive today. They've been growing in laboratories around the world for more than 70 years, multiplying by the trillions, used in research into nearly every major disease since. The flaw that ended her life in 1951 never switched off. It's still dividing somewhere right now, decades after she died. Now scale the question up. A mouse has a few million cells. A blue whale has roughly 1,000 times more cells than you do, all dividing across decades. By simple math, a whale's odds of developing cancer should be enormous. Elephants should be walking tumors. Neither of these things is true, and the contradiction has its own name. In 1977, epidemiologist Richard Peto, University of Oxford, first pointed out that cancer rates don't rise with body size or lifespan the way the math predicts. Larger, longer-lived animals aren't riddled with cancer. If anything, they seem oddly protected from it. In 2015, geneticist Joshua Schiffman, University of Utah, found part of the explanation sitting directly inside elephants. While humans carry a single copy of the tumor-suppressing gene TP53, African elephants carry roughly 20. Their cells are, in effect, running 20 separate copies of the same alarm system humans run with one. Naked mole rats solve the same problem a different way. In 2013, biologists Vera Gorbunova and Andrei Seliwanov, University of Rochester, found that naked mole rat tissue is saturated with an unusually heavy form of a molecule called hyaluronan, dense enough that it physically jams the early stages of tumor growth. Remove that molecule from their cells in a lab dish, and the cells turn vulnerable almost immediately. A species that lives underground in total darkness for 30 years has, by accident or necessity, ended up with one of the most effective anti-cancer systems known to science. It's tempting to think elephants and mole rats need cancer protection less than the rest of us do. They don't. They've just had more evolutionary time and pressure to bolt extra locks onto the same door, using whatever biological material happened to be lying around, which changes how you should think about your own body. That cell that mutated earlier today, the one your body is likely already dealing with, isn't some rare exception. It's just Tuesday. Your baseline state isn't safety. It's a body that's constantly fighting something off, hour after hour, on a job that never clocks out. Why that defense quietly fails in some people, on some days, still isn't fully understood. For many cancers, there is no single cause, no single timeline, often no smoking gun at all, just a slow accumulation of bad luck that looks different almost every time. Elephants still occasionally get cancer. So do naked mole rats, by some recent accounts. Even with 20 backup copies of an alarm gene, even with a tissue practically waterproofed against tumors, nothing in nature has ever built a lock that holds forever. A century of research aimed straight at this gap hasn't closed it, and many of the fundamental questions remain unresolved. So somewhere in you, right now, another cell has just copied itself wrong. That's not unusual. That's just what happens when you're built out of dividing cells. Whether it stays nothing is a question your body has been quietly getting right, for you, since before you could walk.